Is Saturday, and today we have two games on the NFL slate for DraftKings for showdown competitions. And let's talk a little bit about how to really cash and how to really play a showdown competition, especially with the captain position. Some of the things that we've looked at over the last couple months really is the value of the captain position and what it provides you. Now, the couple ways it works, some weeks it's hit or miss, some weeks it really works well. But really, this is a strategy that we've used to really cash in the captain's position and make a little bit of money this year. The number one thing that we've looked at is captain position. Obviously, on DraftKings, you're going to be paying up for the captain position by about 1.5 times the price. So where it says 19.8 is for the captain position, he's going to be about 13.2, 13.3, something like that, 13.4 for that. So what we have to do is we have to find somebody that can complement this really well. First thing that we really look at is the defenses. Houston Texans have a defense this week, and the matchup is very, very favorable for the Houston Texans. The New York is going to be without, just got back Sam Darnold, so there's a lot of issues there with quarterback position. So there's some things you can think about. But the number one thing that we look at is immediately you're going to start with 10 points for the Houston Texans on defense plus half. So you're almost going to be at 15 points already just with the defense starting in the captain position. Now what this does is it gives you two things. No matter if they score points, a couple sacks or anything like that, you're still going to keep points in there for the beginning. So you're going to be able to build up a little bit of a cushion playing against everybody else. Now, we really don't know how this is going to go. Houston could be kind of lax a little bit because I think they're going to lock in to a playoff spot, so they really don't have to try as hard. But what we really want to do is focus on this captain position. So we're going to draft them as our captain. So that only gives us $8,400 spent, and we now have $8,300 remaining. If you had immediately put in Deshaun Watson there, you'd be really hurting for salary just to try to make that up. You might get a lot of points, but then you're going to be playing with a lot of players who just are going to be, hopeful players and not actual cash players in this game. So now we go back to the traditional stack, 13-2. That's what I thought it was. So Deshaun Watson, and then you want to go with your Lamar Miller, come back as your running back, and then you now want to pick your wide receiver. So now that we've stacked it normally like you would do for DFS, here's what we play for on the backside. I really like Demaryius Thomas this week because he is going to be looked at over top with their backup for New Jersey. So the number 2 cornerback is actually going to be probably facing off against DeAndre Hopkins a lot or playing in the slot. But I think Demaryius Thomas is going to have a little bit of an opening this week now that he's getting on board with Deshaun Watson and learning kind of the system there in Texas. But let's go with Demaryius Thomas as our stack, and then that's our 3-player stack for this side. So you've got a catcher, you've got somebody that can run the ball, and then you've got your quarterback who can also run, throw as well. So let's come back on the other side and play the reverse spread. You want to get Robbie Anderson because this might be a shootout. Is actually going to be the starting wide receiver this week with Jermaine Kearse because Quincy Enunwa is actually out this week. So pick up Robbie Anderson and put him on your list. He's going to be very heavily owned, but he's also going to be very heavily targeted by Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold actually targeted him a lot coming in, especially this Denver game and a couple of the other games. But he just came back in week 14, and we see that he's had a pretty good target week. Never had a week since the middle of the week when he was out for a couple weeks, but we've never had a time when he hasn't been targeted a lot. So you might see a lot from him this week. Now here's the interesting thing that you get to play with. You have about $4,800 left. You obviously could go with Elijah McGuire, who's actually going to be the starting running back. But I don't know about his reception totals. I mean, he has been targeted quite a bit when he's played, but he is going to be the lead back this week. So you have an option to go with him. You can come back with Chris Herndon if you want to continue with the passing game. But I really think that they're going to be throwing the ball a lot this week. So there's 2 things you could do. Go down to Jason Myers, pick up Jason Myers as the kicker for New York. He's going to score you some points no matter what. He's consistently scored more than 10 points every week. But you could play with the tight end spot. This is kind of a risky bounce back this week, but you've seen him score 12 and then 5 and then 2 and 6. So you've got a lot of risk there on the upside, whereas it looks like Jason Myers might come off with at least 10 points in this game, having to kick a lot. The question, though, becomes if New Jersey controls the game, do they put their kicker in? And do you want to come back with the running back? So there's two ways to play this. This week, though, for this matchup, I think we are going to go with McGuire, only because he does have a couple targets, and he will be used in the passing game. He played 74% of their snaps this week. So you plug in McGuire, that equals the exact amount of money you want to use on this. So here's the way really to cash in on this. Obviously, if the Texans had not been a favorable matchup, if this had been, New York ranks third against, defenses, you don't even want to think about putting a defense in your lineup for the game. You don't want to do it. You want to start off with everybody, really stacking the wide receivers and the running backs for the other team. So that's kind of how we're going to play this week. I hope you enjoyed that video, and we'll see what happens in the Showdown Captains mode at 4:30.